legends, and yes, it's true, our worst nightmares are upon us. The talking heads at the UFC have started mentioning something that I've been talking about on the live streams as a very real possibility for what I see happening, except it has been floated as something to happen at the end of the year, where I think it's going to be something that happens at the start of next year. So DC and Chael Sonnen started doing their waffle show of the week, and during that show, DC floated the idea, and he said, "Hey Chael, why don't we have an all-female pay-per-view to wrap up the year in December?" And he said, "That's right, what about Wei Li versus Valentina Shevchenko as the co-main event, and then Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes as the main event in December? Let's check it out together, boys," so I make sure I don't misquote him here.
Darren, for you, I think Wei Li and Valentina is likely your co-main.
Chill. Okay, so what about end of the year card, Amanda Kayla, Wei Li, Valentina, Josh Van Pantoja in the co-main event. Hey, Josh Van's young. That's the type of guy that will turn around quick. And Pantoja, he really has not been checked. Pantoja has been putting it on dudes lately.
There you go. 3 title fights in the December card is DC's big idea for the end of the year. I don't think it is going to play out this way, but I have been saying that I do think we are going to be getting a pay-per-view very soon that is going to be all-female led pay-per-view. I do think we are going to get that very soon, but I don't think it is going to be in December. No. I don't think it's going to be in December at all. Here's the way that I see the rest of the year playing out, right? I think the co-main event for the super fight, which is going to be JDM versus Islam Makhachev at Madison Square Garden, isn't going to be a title fight. No, I think the co-main event of that is probably going to be a 5-round number 1 title eliminator in one of the other divisions, maybe in the UFC lightweight division, because lightweight is the division that needs to get locked down right now, or it could be a 5-round co-main event in the welterweight division as well, so that obviously you have JDM and Islam Makhachev battling it out for the title, and then whoever wins the fight in the co-main event, it easily sets up a number 1 contender. This is the way the UFC likes to do things. They also like to stretch things out so they can plan as many pay-per-views ahead in the future, and if you've noticed, they've started watering down the pay-per-views a little bit. I don't think we're ever going to see another 3 title fight pay-per-view in a long time. So that means you take Alexandre Pantoja and Joshua Van and you stick them on the co-main event of the December card. I think DC's right there, but I think the main event of the December card is going to be Ilia Topuria, either versus Arman Sarukian, Paddy Pimblett, or Justin Gaethje, depending on how all the negotiating goes right now. That's the way that I think that is going to happen. Now, in January, the UFC like to go to 2 very special countries. The Western countries that have absolutely no backbone at all, where the population are very used to being bent over by their rulers and just absolutely giving it, mate. And that is Australia and Canada. That's embarrassing to admit, but it is Australia and Canada. And I'll tell you why right now. Because the populations there don't whinge and complain, the UFC can get away with whatever they want. They also get paid site fees in Canada and Australia. So those countries are just happy to have them for the pleasure of having the UFC, because we need entertainment. We need to waste our taxes on entertainment for some reason. Don't worry about the potholes. Either way, and in January and December, you see Western fighters like to take off the end of December and the start of January to be with their families and engorge themselves with a bunch of food, which means the January card and the February cards are usually a little bit weak. This is where it's great to have such an amazing Muslim conglomerate in MMA and in the UFC, because the Muslims, they like to take their time off around March during Ramadan, and I love it. It's so ironic when we, the MMA community, the Western audience, whinge and complain about, oh, these damn Muslims taking 1 month off over Ramadan, why don't they fight? And we just completely ignore that all the fighters like to take off January. We completely ignore it. And the Muslim fighters, they only want to take off Ramadan so they can diet themselves down. They're actually going to be better athletes by the end of Ramadan. But the Western fighters, they need 3 weeks off to get fat with their families, and then they need another 3 weeks to cut all the weight. No one says anything about that. But it's very traditional to have a January card in Canada with a whole bunch of Westerners that don't want to be there because they do not want to cut weight over the Christmas holiday break. Why would they? It's their holiday period. No one complains about that though, do they? They only complain about Ramadan. Either way, what do you do with the January card? What do you do with the January card? It's usually in Canada, and if you look back through the history books, it's usually a female co-main event. Now, Canada and Australia, they're in a race to the bottom to see who can be as progressive as possible. Who can absolutely tear their societies apart with progressivism as quickly as humanly possible. So, they are a great candidate for this idea, and this is exactly what I proposed to the chat, not in a sort of I'm excited to see it kind of a way, but in a chat, I think this is what's going to get forced down your throat. Because for some reason, I got a lot of Canadians in chat, based to the Canadians out there. But I've been saying to them, I think this is going to get forced down your throat because the UFC want to finish on a big note, and then the Pantosias, the Tapurias, the guys at lightweight, the guys at welterweight, they're all going to want to take the Christmas break. Canada is going to be right there. They are going to need an event. You cannot, and the first quarter, the UFC like to do something big as possible, but they generally can't do that until they get to Miami in March. Have you noticed how Miami always seems to be a really good card where we see all the familiar faces again? That's because all the Western fighters are done with their Christmas pig out, and they've done dieting down, and they've gotten back into the camps. January, Canada lines up perfectly to have a Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang and Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison shoved down our throats, which is sort of disappointing that this is how it feels, right? Because that undercard is going to be incredibly not stacked at all. It's just going to have a bunch of Canadian fighters on it versus nobodies, a bunch of Neil Magny's versus Jeff Molina's. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be the Canadian card. And these two fights, Wang Zhili and Valentina Shevchenko, and Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison, these fights need to happen. Like, I am mildly intrigued for Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison. These fights need to happen. They do. And Wang versus Valentina, it's the fight that sort of needs to happen. But this is the point where the UFC screeches to an entertainment halt and absolutely becomes the PFL. So when everyone is out there whinging about how they just want meritocracy, they don't care about the entertainment, you're going to get it. You are going to get it. Man, I hope the MMA Joeys and the Luke Thomases really cover the hell out of this pay-per-view because it is going to need it. Whether we want to admit it or not, nobody watches the PFL because a 100% meritocracy in MMA is fucking boring. It's Valentina Shevchenko smudging against the cage. It's Kayla Harrison fighting for top position over Amanda Nunes. There's a reason nobody watches the PFL because it is fucking boring. The entertainment of the UFC is what keeps us all drawn in to see which one is going to get punched in the face and knocked out last. That's just the way it is. And if you didn't agree with me, you'd be watching the PFL. But I've seen their numbers and no one's fucking watching the PFL. So you do agree with me in general. I'm sure the 4 PFL fans out there are absolutely disgusted by what I am saying. These fights do need to happen. They really do, man. They do. Like, they're important fights. Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison is an important fight that I am interested in. And I would love to see it as a co-main event under an Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan in December. But I do not think the UFC are going to do that. I think the idea of having 2 women's co-main events in Canada in January ticks all the boxes for them. It's in a market that wants to have them there. It's in a country that wants to pride itself on being as progressive as humanly possible. It gives all the pay-per-view stars, that's the nice way of saying it, it gives all the pay-per-view stars their little break right during that January-December run, especially since you would have had them all fight up until that point. Like, we are looking at an absolutely stacked end of the year, especially with Pantoja saying that he wants to stay active and Merab saying that he wants to stay active. Like, DDP fought around the start of the year, didn't he? When was the Easy Strickland fight? Has DDP fought once or twice this year? Yes, DDP fought at the start of the year, Strickland. February 8th. And DDP really only likes to fight twice a year. You know, he's not a Merab or a Pantoja. Tom Aspinall, how many more times can he possibly fight? He's going to be fighting in, is it Abu Dhabi or New York? Either one. Doesn't matter. You're not going to get Tom Aspinall running again. Pantoja's, Merab has already given us more than we deserve from him. He is fighting 3 times a year. Ilia Topuria, he's set right there for December. Like, we're sort of done for the end of the year. Once you have JDM versus Islam and you have Ilia Topuria versus versus someone at lightweight, and you have the lightweight contenders and the welterweight contenders, because a top 5 fight at lightweight and contender weight is a perfect 5-round co-main event. Madison Square Garden sort of sells itself. It's all done. The year is wrapped up. I think we are going to get one, and it is going to tank in pay-per-view sales. Absolutely tank. Oh my god, I just thought of something else. If we do end up going to Netflix, they would love the first Netflix card to introduce the UFC to the Netflix audience. They just did it over at Boxing. Jake Paul just did it on Netflix over at Boxing. Clarissa Shields versus some other bird. Oh my god, if we do have a new broadcast deal at the start of the year and it's in Netflix with a pay-per-view in Canada and there is a chance for an all-female UFC Super Fight Night card, I think we're going to get this. I think this is very much what DC has done here, is the good old, you know, when the media, when the government sort of leaks something accidentally to the media, and they're like, no, we were never thinking about that. You know when a company accidentally leaks a new game or some gameplay, you know, and they're like, no, we were never thinking about that, got leaked. That never should have happened. But you know what really happened there? Yeah, they leaked it to gauge what the reaction would be in the general public before they go ahead and announce it. Yeah, DC, Chael Sonnen, on ESPN MMA, DC, the main now, like it's John Anik and DC are the two main voices of the UFC, just floated an idea on their podcast. Just, hey guys, what do you think about this? Just to see what the reaction would be. How much backlash are they going to get? Are they going to get a Volk versus Yair level of backlash, or are they going to get a, oh no, come on, man. If we go to Netflix, if we're in Canada in January, watch the announcement. I'm telling you, get ready for a January all-female UFC pay-per-view. I can see it coming a mile away. Anyway, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this is your first time here, g'day and welcome. My name is Dougie. I make an MMA video every single day of the week, and I try and go live as often as I possibly can, which turns out to be pretty much every single day. You want to know when all that happens, hit the notification bell and the subscription button to know when a new video drops, to know when I go live. Let me know what you think about it down there in the comments. How excited are you to watch an all-female pay-per-view on Netflix? Whoa! Rate your excitement levels out of 10 down there in the comment section. Wonderful stuff. Oh, and if you're one of the supporters of the channel, one of the bloody legends, you're always showing up to the streams, you're always commenting down below, you bought your own membership, you're gifting other people memberships, all that good stuff. You know how much I appreciate you guys. That's why your names are up on the next slide. Until then, I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one, boys. Goodbye.